Hello. Welcome to Hardcore Sales, not Hardcore Sales. Today, I am lucky enough to have the wonderful Brooke Bounds with us, the Breakthrough Queen. She's here to talk to us about mindset and how we can break through our self-sabotage. Thank you so much for joining us, Brooke.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you. See where it goes.
Marvelous. Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do.
Okay, so as you rightly said, I'm the breakthrough queen. I help people to break through their old stories and their old beliefs, many that have been sort of from childhood as well, that have been passed down from generation to generation. Even like well-meaning parents, they would have passed down their beliefs from their parents, etc. So what I help people to do is to break through those beliefs that aren't actually their beliefs, so they can go and live the life that they truly want to have. And self-sabotage is a big thing of that, because if parents had the belief that things can't happen, we end up having that installed in us by default as well. So we go through it all and work out whether they're actually your own stories or stories from not necessarily parents, but from teachers, from relatives, anybody that was an influencer in your childhood. I've helped many people that have had problems from school when a teacher said a few things and it stuck with them, and they've believed that, in their 40s and 50s. As we will go on to talk about, I've actually wrote a book on how to break through the self-sabotage cycle, and in that I talk about one of my clients who had a belief that she was useless at maths because of something a teacher said to her when she was 7 or 8, and she was in her 50s then, and that was holding her back from doing what she wanted to do in her career. And once we broke through that belief cycle, she then went on to do the exam she wanted to do, and she got a promotion and she was absolutely fine. But it was that belief she was holding on to from what a teacher said to her when she was 7. So it's amazing that how these things can hold us back.
Yeah, isn't that powerful? That's incredible. So you're talking there about intergenerational impact, which is, yeah, it sounds massive. Does this mean that working with you is something that's a deep counseling session, or what sort of strategies are you employing?
Yeah, it's coaching and sort of like therapy. So if you think about it, if your grandparents were brought up in the war when there was rations and things, they would have had the belief that things are scarce. So they would have taught that inadvertently sometimes to their children who were your parents, and then your parents would have had that belief and carried it on and taught that to yourself. So a lot of people who struggle with like money mindset, for example, have got that scarcity belief that they don't always realize that they've got. But it's like when they actually come with a session with me and we start talking about it, I can find out really quite quickly where the belief is coming from and why people are thinking that way without even realizing it. The amount of times I hear, oh, I didn't even realize that was an issue, but it was one of the things that's holding people back, and it kind of pulls the thread to like let people go on to do whatever they want to do. Because once that belief is gone and they can have their own beliefs about things, then they can move on to what they want to move on to.
Well, it sounds incredibly liberating,
It
really,
is.
really quite fantastic. So from a salesperson's perspective, I think I certainly can imagine many different things that have happened to me manifested in my sales career and managing people and things like that that I wouldn't necessarily consciously put down to something my parents taught me or grandparents taught them. So I think that's a really interesting way of uncovering the bits and pieces that are here. So when you say self-sabotage, how do you define that?
Well, self-sabotage is if, say, for example, you want to do something, you think, right, you're going to get up on a Monday and that's it, you're going to get X amount of sales that week. But by the Tuesday, you've talked yourself out of it because, well, I'm not really that good at sales. I'm not that great. And, Joe down the road is doing absolutely amazing. And I can't do as good as Joe down the road. So you start talking yourself out of it. So you're sabotaging it by yourself, by the thoughts that you're having and the words that you're saying to yourself. And again, in the book, I go into detail about self-talk is one of the main things about self-sabotage. It's the words we say to ourselves. Whenever I do a masterclass or a boot camp, I always ask the question, who hates bullies? And everybody puts up their hand. And I said, well, it's a truth bomb here, because I do talk quite straight, that you're a bully. And they go, what? Because we bully ourselves. We're the worst people to talk to ourselves, because but as well, if I say to you, what you say to yourself, if you said it to your best friend, how long would you do it with money goals, with sales goals, with weight goals? You know, amount of women I spoke to that start a weight loss thing on a Monday, and by Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, it's completely gone out the window because they've sabotaged it. And it's the same with anything that you want to do. If you're talking yourself out of it, you're sabotaging it in some way because you've got a belief deep down that you can't actually achieve it. Like I had one lady who had an issue with money mindset and she couldn't work it out. She said because her parents were really great at helping and teaching her about money when she was younger. And I said, well, tell me about it. And she said, well, my mum used to give me pennies for jobs. She said, but, and then as we explored it more, it worked out that her belief deep down was she was only worth pennies because that's what her mum and dad used to give her for doing little odd jobs around the house, which from the parents' point of view, it was teaching her about money. But how she perceived it was, I'm only worth pennies.
Oh, bless her.
Sessions about how we perceive things and how we think about things.
That's incredible, isn't it? Because that's a really good parenting technique. I mean, not being a parent, but I'd have thought to, to encourage odd jobs to get done and to earn your way. That sounds really positive. It's crazy to think that you can internalize that into a negative and then not even realize that's what you've done.
Yeah. And it depends, on how the child was feeling at the time and how the parents said it to them, here's your pennies for working hard. So that would have been a belief instilled in her to say that you have to work hard for your pennies.
That's
So that, and this is how I break it down with people because they tell me their stories and things, and then I'm renowned for going, as they say, like an inch wide and like 600 miles deep. I will dig deep and keep digging and digging until we actually get to the thing that's. Once this lady realized that, it was her whole life turned around. Her money mindset was completely different. We did some work on her money mindset, and there was no issues after that with it because her beliefs had changed. She didn't believe anymore that she was only worth pennies.
So as you mentioned money mindset there, how can money mindset issues manifest themselves? How could we notice in our day-to-day lives that actually money mindset was something that maybe we ought to start thinking about and considering in a different way?
It's how we react emotionally to money, because a lot of people will attach money to how they value themselves. If I earn money and successful, then I'm valuable. But actually it isn't that the case. So it's how you feel emotionally about money, because a lot of people say, oh, I hate money, but it's an evil necessity. And it's the money stories that you grew up with. A lot of people heard parents saying money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think I am, the Bank of England, or whatever country that you live in? So it's that what you're being told up until you're 7, because that's when you take things in, but you haven't got the critical faculty to actually reason things. You just take them on as they're the whole truth, and okay, that's it. Okay. Or if you hear that I have to work hard every day for my money, and if parents are all saying that, I've worked really hard for this money, so no, I'm not going to spend it on X, Y, and Z. And if you constantly hear that, you then grow up with a belief that money's hard to come by. It's really hard to work for money. I have to work really hard to get my money. So it all depends on the stories that you heard growing up and how you feel about money. And there's often quite a trigger. So when people tell me their stories about their parents and what their parents said to them as children, I can help them with their work out whether their money mindset is an issue for them or not.
Amazing. So do you tend to work with people for like 1 or 2 sessions, or is it more of an ongoing process? Is it sort of things that you've got to do homework on? Is it all that kind of thing, or how does it work?
I normally sort of do like 3 months of sessions with people, because it's getting to know them and it's working on their beliefs, and actually sorting out their beliefs doesn't always take that long to do, but it's then embedding it into their mind. Because if you think about it, if they've had a belief and they're in their 40s or something and they've been treading that pathway for all that time, it's then sort of getting a new, what I call a new neuro pathway. So it's getting that embedded into your mind. Like if I said to you, did you brush your teeth this morning? You'd probably think, hang on a minute, Yes, I did brush my teeth, because you've done it. It's such a habit that you don't actually have to have a reminder on your phone. Brush my teeth before I go to work. But when you're changing your beliefs and you're changing things, how you think about things, it's developing those new habits. So I work with people, and they do have different things to do throughout the week in between our sessions to help them to really embed that into their mind, because we can all change our mind and think completely differently, and it just depends on what you want to get out of life and how you want to think about these things. For myself, I'm a great example of that, and my tagline is from scared to stage, because I was a very scared little girl, because I was mentally and physically abused as a child by my mother. But now I stand up on stage and tell my story quite confidently and talk about it. So I've completely changed my mind from hearing, I was ugly, I was useless, nobody loved me, nobody cared, and I had no self-esteem, very little self-worth, very little confidence. And I've actually changed all my mindset. That's what I'm so passionate about, helping other people to change the beliefs about themselves that they think that are their beliefs, but they're not necessarily their beliefs. It's ones that have been inherited from people.
That's amazing. So you've taken something that's been incredibly traumatic and managed to create a silver lining out of it and pay it forward. That's so wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what I do. I've got a group. It's called Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life, because that, without sounding cliche, is what happened to me. Once I changed my mindset, I changed my life, because I went from being in an abusive relationship with my mother to being in an abusive relationship with my first boyfriend. And then I realized that because you're attracting that sort of person, like I said, we get into that deeper in sessions to find out where you're attracting that sort of person and what you can do differently to attract a different type of person into your life.
So do you think that happens with clients as well? So for example, if you've had a negative experience as a child, and then, like you say, you go on and replicate that with a romantic relationship, do you think that in business we end up attracting the same? Can we repeat those patterns and attract clients to us and then replay them again? Is that something that can happen, or have I just made that up?
No, that can totally happen, because we attract what we give out. So if our mindset and our belief is that we're not good enough, and we can't do the things we want to do, we're going to attract those sorts of people as well into our lives. So it's realizing, look around you, think about, and I think it was Jim Rohn, it was a famous motivator and speaker, said that you become like the 5 people you hang about with. So if you look around, like the 5 closest people to you, look at their mindset, what are they thinking, what are they doing, what are they earning, and what are you thinking, doing and earning. And it's quite interesting, especially if you think about when teenagers get into like different groups, how sometimes an A student can suddenly become a student that doesn't care about school, because they've got into a different peer group that isn't, who don't care about school and would rather like bunk off school and stuff. Or you could have it the opposite way around, where somebody didn't care about school but suddenly became friends with somebody who's an A student, and they can change it completely around. So it really is about how you feel about yourself. You feel about yourself is like a mirror, and you reflect that back from people as well.
So what sort of results do you find that, take an entrepreneur, for example, or a business owner, um, if they are struggling with self-sabotage, what then do you find they're able to achieve once they've worked with you, once they've dealt with some of those issues that perhaps they didn't even know they had?
It depends on what they're sort of aiming for, but a while ago I had a client that was struggling to get any clients at all. After our first session, once they realized what was the issue and we shifted some of the stuff for, they phoned me up the next day and said, oh my goodness, I've just signed up £20,000 worth of business. I'm like over the moon, and I'm so shocked. I'm not, because I knew why she had all the potential there, but it was just that thought that I can't do this. It's that buried belief of thinking I can't do this that I help to actually bring out to the open, and we shift that out of the way. So it just depends on whether it's money mindset. I help people, who want to lose weight, and often that's nothing to do with the food they're eating, it's again how they feel about themselves, and it all come back to how you feel about yourself as well. So it's all about emotional eating and things. So I mean, I helped one lady a couple of years ago. She lost 3 stone, and I'm telling you this because it was a couple of years ago. She still hasn't put any of the weight back on because she's completely changed her relationship with food because of working with her mindset with me, and how she was eating and why she was eating. So it all comes back down again to about the belief that we have in ourselves. So it's spoken to me 20 years ago. I would have never done this. I would have never had an interview because I thought you wouldn't want to. I haven't got anything to offer them. I now know to me, and I have got to offer, so I'll happily come on interviews and chat to people wherever I can to help people out and spread the word about your belief system.
It's quite incredible how powerful it is, and how the limits that we have inside sometimes we don't even know are there. I think that's, to me, the most mind-boggling part of it all. So if you've got a mind block but you don't even know you've got it, how do you go about uncovering that?
By asking lots of questions. I know sort of the questions to ask, and how you respond and what you answer. Then I will ask another question depending on the response that you give to me, and we will finally get to the answer. Most of my clients normally end up crying, which I actually celebrate, which sounds really strange, but that means we're actually tapping into the...
Oh, I've completely lost you now. Well, I guess that's all we've got from Brooke today. I will drop some links below, and hopefully you can get her book, because honestly, it sounds incredible. So thank you if you managed to catch a bit of that, and apologies for the tech cock-ups.